It was just another ordinary day at East Haven High, a school that wore a mask of excellence while hiding the cracks of cruelty underneath. Inside those brick walls, students roamed the hallways like actors in a play, some desperate to be seen, others praying to disappear. Among the invisible ones was Aria Lane, a quiet girl with eyes that held secrets and a soul that spoke louder than her voice ever did. Aria had always been the type to sit at the back, avoid eye contact, and lose herself in her sketchbook. Her world was her own, one of quiet corners and silent battles. But the louder students didn't understand silence, they feared it, mocked it, and tried to break it. Especially one group, Logan, Riley, and Brent, the self-declared kings and queen of popularity, the rulers of lunchtime cruelty. They thrived on power, and Aria, with her head down and sleeves long, seemed like the easiest target. It started with whispers. Pencils snapped when she passed, paint spilled, by accident, on her locker, gum placed strategically in her chair. Aria never retaliated. She just cleaned up the mess and moved on. But her resilience was misread as weakness, and the bullies escalated. One Friday afternoon, when most students were preparing for the weekend and teachers were already halfway out the door, Logan saw his opportunity. Aria was in the art room finishing a sketch for the upcoming school competition. She stayed back to perfect the shadows on a figure she called the Phoenix, a symbolic piece about rebirth and strength. Ironically fitting, though she didn't know it yet. The room was empty except for Aria and the echoes of her pencil strokes. Then came the silence before chaos, the door creaked open, and Riley's cruel laughter shattered the stillness. Logan and Brent followed behind, carrying ropes and markers, their eyes gleaming with mischief. Aria stood up, startled. "What are you doing?" she asked softly. Her voice trembled but didn't break. Riley grinned and said, "We just want to make you stand out for once. You're way too boring to ignore forever." Before she could react, they pushed her back into the chair. Logan held her arms, Brent tied her legs, and Riley secured the knots. Aria struggled but the ropes were tight. Then the markers came out, black, red, blue. They began drawing on her face, arms, and clothes, mocking tattoos, words like freak, mute, and a loser scrawled across her skin. Laughter echoed through the room as tears streamed down her cheeks. No one came. No teacher, no student. Just the sound of humiliation sinking into her bones. But somewhere in the middle of that torment, something in Aria snapped, not like glass breaking, but like a door unlocking. She stopped crying. She stopped shaking. She sat still, staring at each of them, memorizing their smirks. Her silence was no longer fear, it was observation. The bullies left her there, taped and tied, assuming she'd remain a victim. But Aria had no plans to stay that way. She waited. 10 minutes passed. Then 15. When the final school bell rang and the halls fell quiet, she began twisting her wrists against the ropes. Pain burned her skin, but she didn't stop. She leaned back, used the weight of her chair, and slammed herself to the ground. It hurt, but the fall loosened the knots. Gritting her teeth, she wriggled free and crawled toward her sketchbook. She looked at her drawing, the Phoenix, and for the first time, she saw herself in it. Instead of heading to the nurse or the principal, Aria walked to the locker room. She cleaned the ink from her face as best she could, pulled her hoodie over her head, and walked home without a word to anyone. But that night, her silence gave way to fire. She spent hours researching techniques of self-defense, methods of psychological exposure, and even ways to flip pranks with precision. But more than anything, she began sketching something new, not birds or fantasy, but faces. Their faces. She made a plan. It wasn't revenge. It was revelation. She wasn't going to get even, she was going to make them confront what they'd done, in front of everyone. Over the weekend, she designed digital posters with edited versions of the art they drew on her, exaggerated and captioned with sarcastic headlines like, "Meet the creative geniuses of East Haven High," each one with the bullies' names hidden in the drawings if anyone looked close enough. Then she set up anonymous accounts on social media and posted her digital art to student forums. The reactions were instant. People thought it was satire at first, then rumors began swirling. Students started recognizing the styles, Logan's sharp edges, Riley's signature hearts, Brent's initials on one of the fake tattoos. The bullies panicked, but they couldn't prove anything. The posts went viral within school circles. Teachers started noticing. The principal was made aware. But still, no one knew it was Aria. Then came Monday morning. Aria walked into school not with fear, but with focus. She wore a white shirt, tied up her hair, and held her sketchbook in hand like a weapon of quiet confidence. The halls buzzed with whispers. She could hear Riley arguing with Logan near the lockers, Brent trying to delete old texts. Aria didn't smile. She just waited. Because this was only the beginning. What the bullies didn't realize was that tying her down didn't break her spirit, it forged it into steel. The marks they drew weren't scars, they were sparks. And she was ready to burn every last assumption to the ground. Before first period started, the loudspeaker crackled on. The principal announced an emergency assembly for the entire school. Aria's heart raced. She wasn't sure if her plan would go this far this fast. But she walked into that auditorium with the calm of someone who already knew how this story would end. The auditorium buzzed with confusion as the students filed in, murmuring about the mysterious assembly called by the principal. Whispers passed from row to row, some curious, others nervous. Logan sat with his foot tapping anxiously, Riley kept checking her phone, and Brent looked pale, clutching his backpack like it held the answers to everything unraveling. But Aria sat calmly in the third row from the front, sketchbook in her lap, her gaze steady. No longer the girl who avoided attention, today she was the one commanding it. And she hadn't spoken a word. Principal Harmon stepped onto the stage with a grim expression, holding a stack of printed screenshots. "Students," he began, "we are gathered here because of a series of disturbing and highly creative online posts that have gone viral within our school community. These images, while satirical on the surface, contain very serious implications of bullying, specifically targeting a student here at East Haven High." The air went still. Every head turned slightly, unsure where the weight of the statement would fall. Some of these illustrations feature signatures, initials, and marks that have helped us narrow down the responsible individuals. Murmurs rose. The bullies stiffened. Logan broke into a sweat. Riley whispered, "They can't prove it." But Aria wasn't waiting for proof, she was preparing for exposure. Principal Harmon lifted one of the posters onto the projector screen behind him. It was a distorted version of the tattoos they'd drawn on Aria's face, except now reimagined into a grotesque clown mask with Logan's name hidden in the wrinkles. Gasps erupted from the audience. Another slide followed. This one had Riley's fake lipstick marks, her signature doodle of a broken heart, but twisted to form a cage. Aria watched as Riley shrank in her seat. Then came Brent's, his name drawn in barbed wire lines across a cartoon figure holding a rope and marker. The crowd had gone silent. Then the murmurs turned into outrage. "This ends now," Principal Harmon continued. "Whoever created these posters brought serious issues to light, bullying, harassment, humiliation. Our administration is investigating these claims seriously. And I want the individuals involved in the original incident to come forward, before disciplinary action is taken." Still, silence. No one stood. But Aria did. Not with anger, not with tears, but with her sketchbook open and her voice, calm and clear. "I was the one they tied," she said, every syllable slicing through the room. "They drew on me. They laughed. And no one helped. So I showed everyone exactly what they did. Through the same tools they used against me." Shock rippled like a wave through the auditorium. No one had expected the quiet girl to speak, much less confront the entire school. "I didn't want revenge," Aria continued, voice firm. "I wanted truth. Because silence doesn't protect people, it protects bullies." She turned toward Logan, Riley, and Brent, who now looked like ghosts. "You thought I'd stay quiet. But I turned your cruelty into art. Now everyone sees what you did." The crowd erupted, not with laughter, but with applause. Students who had once overlooked Aria now clapped, some standing. The noise overwhelmed the bullies, who ducked their heads in shame. Principal Harmon raised a hand for silence. "Aria, thank you for your courage. You've shown this school what strength really looks like. And as for the students responsible, meet me in my office immediately." Logan, Riley, and Brent stood reluctantly, humiliated beyond words. As they walked up the aisle, students stepped aside. Not out of respect, but like one does for a collapsing statue. Aria sat back down, emotion flickering behind her eyes. Not vengeance. Not victory. Just release. She had broken free, not only from the ropes, but from the identity they had tried to force on her. News of the assembly spread like wildfire. Aria's story reached not only the school district but also a local journalist who picked it up for an online human interest article titled, "The Girl Who Fought Back with Art." Her anonymous accounts that once only carried her drawings now held thousands of followers. Students from other schools messaged her, thanking her for speaking out. She became a voice, not loud, but powerful. In the weeks that followed, Aria was offered a scholarship to a youth art program. Her Phoenix drawing. It won first place in the regional contest and was displayed in the city's art museum for youth talent. As for Logan, Riley, and Brent, they faced suspension, mandatory counseling, and school service. But more than anything, they faced the loss of their image, the exposure of their cruelty. The power they had wielded was shattered, not by fists or shouting, but by a girl they underestimated. A girl with a pencil and a plan. 1 month later, the school hosted an anti-bullying art exhibit led by none other than Aria. The theme: Marks That Heal. Her display was a centerpiece. Students walked through it in awe. And at the very center of it was the same chair she had been tied to, painted gold, wrapped with vines of paper, each one containing a message from a student who had felt voiceless. It wasn't just art anymore. It was transformation. Aria stood by her exhibit, dressed in white with her sketchbook held open. Students now came to her not with judgment, but respect. She didn't talk much still, but her silence had a new meaning. It was the silence of peace. Of control. Of knowing who she was and what she could overcome. And as the exhibit drew to a close, a girl approached her shyly. She was younger, maybe a freshman, nervous and clutching a folded paper. "You inspired me," the girl whispered. "I didn't think I could speak up either, until I saw your story." Aria smiled gently and took the girl's hand. "You can," she said softly. "You already did." And in that moment, it wasn't about revenge anymore, it was about awakening others. The spark she lit didn't burn to destroy, it blazed to ignite courage in others like her.